20 North Arundel is also going to be a sign for a while. So as those situations pop up, I think they could also be held to these same
standards
rules or processes for those as well.
Yeah, we definitely didn't create measurement standards for those, but we can definitely look into adding that and also holding them to similar durational standards as well as maintenance standards as well.
That's all for now.
Mr. Lowry?
Just a couple of questions. One, I wanted to piggyback on the chain link fence. I think I would like to see something added to this regarding that for construction. When we get into commercial buildings or structures being built, a lot of times they're putting those temporary fences up, and this sign requirement standard does not hold them to anything as far as plastering something all along, Arundel Avenue with this temporary fence, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It seems like it's more laid out as if this were perpendicular to a road as far as like a home development or something along those lines. Who does the review after the 1 or 2 year?
Yeah, so the way that review process would happen is that we would keep track and actually put on the original permit that is issued the date of re-review. So it would just be 2 or 1 years, 1 year or 2 years from the period that the permit was originally issued, and we'd keep track of that internally as well. And then whoever's our planner one, that's who normally does our sign permit reviews, so they would be responsible for the re-review. And either them or our code enforcement team would work together to reach out to the parties involved to make sure that they're getting those applications in.
That's what I was wondering, if it was planning department or code review or a combination of the both, so I appreciate the clarification. Is there anything in here that requires them to have a sign for these developments?
So we don't currently require it, and I think there's some intent with that depending on the size of the site. You don't want a massive sign that's taking up most of the site, but yeah, so we don't currently require it, and the intent of this is not to require it, but to just provide guidance for if developers do want to provide those signs, what those would look like and how we would regulate them.
I think I would personally like to see a requirement for these developments. I think it's in the public interest to know what's coming and what they can expect. I think it would help address a lot of questions that come up and rumors that spread through the community regarding developments. So I think I would like to see a requirement making them put this type of sign up.
Thank you for the input.
Can I piggyback? Piggybacking off of that, would it be possible to require some kind of fencing with screening for developments that are along major thoroughfares and sidewalks? So, for example, I think about the townhome development along Arundel that's up against a sidewalk. I could see potentially having some kind of safety issue with not having some kind of barricades there. And as we start to get more infill projects, I see more projects like that happening. But just having a chain link fence isn't all that attractive. So how do we get them to promote what's going to happen there?
Yeah, so that would that'd be a little bit of a different section than signage. To talk about that, it'd probably be more in screening or fencing. But we can definitely explore that as a future text amendment.
Can I please just make everyone aware that the feed is down and people are not currently able to access the feed? Do we need to ask about how that's working?
We're working on that.
All right.
Yep, Gary's working on it.
All right, thank you.
Hi, y'all. We apologize for the brief cut in feed. The feed is back live, and the unique link for YouTube is on the Town of Zebulon Facebook page. If anybody needs to repost it or re-upload it, you can find it there. It should be continuation, as well as Gary will post the full uninterrupted clip to our YouTube tomorrow.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the planning board? Ms. Johnson?
No, no questions.
Mr. Schilling?
Just one, I would echo the comments from David and from Michael about wraps on fences. Just want to clarify, several areas say minimum setback from the lot line 10 feet, but in the dimensional standards, it says minimum setback 5 feet. So is it, just to clarify, is it 5 feet or 10 feet?
We will take a look at that and make sure that we're getting that consistent next time it comes before the board. If you guys have a preference of which one you would like, we can add that in, but that was just a error.
Higgins?
No questions.
Any other questions, comments from planning board? We'll now take public comment. Anyone wishes to speak in favor? To the podium. Hearing none. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Come to the podium. Hearing none. Anyone wishes to speak neither nor for or against? And I guess for a point of reference, we didn't have anyone, did we have anyone to send anything in for submit for any of these public hearings? Okay, thank you. Hearing none. If there is no one else who wishes to speak, I will close the public hearing and refer this matter to the planning board for consideration. Thank you. Construction drawings, text amendment 2024-204 UDO. Is a request, a text amendment, Article 2 of the UDO to revise and clarify site plan and construction drawing developments review procedures. I declare the public hearing open and ask for staff presentation.
So this is a amendment that's being proposed as kind of a change to the process, and it's a clarification for a lot of the developments that are going on. We have a lot of people in the development field that see how our process goes through. We have members that are members of our TRC that are involved in other municipalities, whether that be part of the City of Raleigh Public Utility Department, our engineers that are consulting for us, or even stormwater. And part of the issue that occurs when we are going through the review process, specifically on stuff that is going through conditional rezoning, plan developments, or special use permits, is currently there's not a definition or separation between what is the site plan that you all see and what is the site plan that has the final construction documents. A lot of times you can see on the image above, it's just site plan, and we kind of work through with the developer about what they're seeing, whether that is what you all are seeing, whether that is the specific landscape standards, parking standards, things like that. The zoning issues, we make sure to include those on that first site plan. And then the second site plan, after they've gone through board approval, turns into kind of a construction document where they have the full utility details, where they go from a 2D to a 3D design, where they're worried about the slope and pitch of the sewer. That kind of stuff that doesn't need to get mixed into the board's approval and turn your packets in 3 and 4 times the size just because of the level of design that those incur. So this amendment is looking at changing from just a site plan, and that's standard term, to match what other area municipalities use, and modifying into 3 definitions. One of those being the residential preliminary plan, and then the other preliminary version is the non-residential site plan. So those are the 2. Obviously, residential preliminary is dealing with your strict residential subdivisions, and your non-residential site plan is your commercial, mixed use, things like that. And it is clarifying the process and what is required for those preliminary drawings. And then moving forward, they kind of come back together with a definition for construction drawings. And again, that is in line with what other municipalities deal with, what our TRC team that works with other municipalities, the language they're seeing every day. Because more often than not, when something gets submitted, we get calls from City of Raleigh, for example, that goes, what level of review am I doing on this? Am I dealing with construction drawings, or is this something that's going to the board and we'll deal with the construction drawings later? So this is clarifying, easing, and making a more understandable process for both the TRC, the staff, as well as developers. So dealing with this, staff recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer specific questions about this, but this is just kind of a clarification and changing to the wording and breaking out into more specific preliminary drawings and then specific construction drawings.
Questions from the Board of Commissioners?
So is this,
Commissioner Baxter?
thank you. Is this not a part of the public hearing then?
It is part of the public.
But you're making a recommendation?
Sorry, I pulled the wrong one on there. That is my apologies. I pulled the wrong slide to that.
Please tell me the nuts and bolts of this, because what it seems like to me is that you are just taking the old process, which is site plan, board approval, and then the next site plan, and you're breaking it into residential and non-residential.
Yeah. So we have specific process that's spelled out in the ordinance that for site plans and how they run through, and it is a combination of a few things that we intend to address in dealing with this amendment. Yes, one, it is splitting and clarifying the residential and non-residential, but part of that goes into the level of review that different groups are doing. When we're talking about residential, we are talking about a whole plethora of additional review items that are involved, whether that is the transportation improvements with just the roads going through, and it's the details and specifics of that are going to be clarified, what is expected at each process as a checklist with an update to our applications when we go through that as staff. So this is establishing, this is a specific residential, and then we will go through the final details, the nuts and bolts, the nitty-gritty of what each one is required with the update to that application.
When you have construction drawing approval listed,
Yeah.
We are used to seeing when an applicant comes before the board asking for a development, a planned development, or whatever it might be. We're used to being able to see some of those construction drawings or housing types, let's say. And from what it seems like, from what I see in front of me, that is not going to be the case if this amendment is made to the UDO. Could you help me understand that?
What you're seeing does not change. What you're seeing in what previous subdivisions or rezonings doesn't change what you'd be seeing in the future. This is a clarification on that 2D versus 3D. When we talk construction documents, we talk about more than just that overhead view of the lot that might show, you do see water lines, where sewer lines are going, but the details of how those are constructed, the slopes of it, the slopes of the streets, and a lot of that engineering level detail is not included on the drawings that you see right now. So you might see water line, but the details of its size, its flow, things like that aren't part of that. And so it's just clarifying that specification. But again, what you guys see, what planning board sees is not changing. That site plan, that preliminary drawing is the same.
And we're still going to see TIAs and,
Yes, that's a whole separate part of the ordinance, so all those things continue to move forward that they would be following.
okay.
Any other questions from the board? Commissioner Miles?
None at this time, sir.
Commissioner Clark?
None at this time.
Commissioner Harrison?
No, sir. Thank you.
Any questions, comments from the planning board? Ms. Alexander? No. Ms. Newkirk?
No questions.
Mr. Germano?
No questions, just a general comment. I appreciate the effort that you guys put into this. This is definitely something that is needed. And with people that I've spoken with and dealt with, this will definitely clarify some confusion that they are having with what the town is asking of them before the boards. So this is good. Thank you.
Mr. Lowry?
Just a clarification, so the numbering in the table, just
That-
the section reference.
Yeah.
Kind of,
That is off right now just because as I made a single change or tried to add stuff, it threw off all those numbers. Those tables are automatically generated, and so those numberings will be addressed when we enter it into the final document, and so it'll be clear.
Ms. Johnson?
No questions.
Ms. Shelley?
No question.
Ms. Jenkins?
No questions.
We will now take public comment. Anyone wishes to speak in favor, come to the podium. Hearing none. Anyone wishes to speak in opposition, come to the podium. Hearing none. Anyone wishes to speak neither for or against, but just want to have something to say, come to the podium. Hearing none. There's no one else who wishes to speak. Any submitted comments?
No, sir.
No submitted comments? Is there anyone wishes to speak? No one else wishes to speak. I will close the public hearing and refer the matter to the planning board for consideration. There's nothing else. There a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Miles.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Hey, Sam, I've got to talk to you real quick.
Nothing seems